Let's get more on Tesla's quarter. Let's bring in Gene Munster of Loup Ventures. Gene, welcome back. Of course, I want to get your take on this quarter.
You know, everyone was focused on that S&P 500, but I don't think that's the real story. The reason and the way that they got there is actually sustainable. Those tax credits are coming from other automotive companies that simply don't have an ability to make EVs fast enough. And so I think that's the real takeaway here, is that this is not about just getting the S&P 500. This is about a company that is laying the framework for predictability around profitability. Hard to even imagine I'm saying that when we're talking about the Tesla story, but I think that's ultimately what's driving the stock higher in after hours.
Karen, you got a question?
I do. Gene, what about the free cash flow, which obviously was a big surprise to the upside, but I'm wondering how much of that is sort of working capital adjustments that could end up turning around once production is back up and they are paying full payroll. How do you think about that number?
I think it's going to be sustainable. I think they're getting some efficiencies out of Shanghai that's ultimately driving that. So just taking a step back, the free cash flow is the second big part of the story. Very impressive, and think it is sustainable.
In terms of the lower average selling price of the vehicles, Gene, I mean, is that mainly because of the Model 3, or is it also because of the price cuts that we've seen in some of the models either in China or here in the United States?
Model 3 and Model Y, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think Model Y probably was up to 15,000 units, so it was 5,000 last quarter.
Okay. Do you think that we've seen the last of the price cuts?
No, what they're doing is really driving efficiencies and driving lower price to ultimately drive market share. And I think that's going to be the piece that's going to surprise investors over the next several quarters.
Okay. And Gene, just quickly on the conference call, if you could, what question would you have for Elon Musk?
It's really all about what's beyond cars. I think the energy aspect is a underappreciated part of the story. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about that on the call.
Huh. All right, Gene, we'll let you go. We'll check in with you a little bit later on. Gene Munster of Loup Ventures. Dan Nathan, how do you think about Tesla at this point? Because we do see follow through after the report in this run.
Yeah, well, I think like you guys have just said, it just confirms the fact that a $300 billion market cap company that's not in the S&P 500, it would be the 10th largest company or so in the S&P 500 is going in. But, you know, when people talk about how many trillions are indexed to the S&P 500, this is not going to be, you know, a massive buy. Maybe it's, you know, 10, 20, 30 billion dollars. There's people who are going to come out pretty clearly with the calculation. So at this point, some of those fund institutions have probably been buying the stock ahead of time, which has helped this story a little bit. Listen, you know, this has been a very volatile company on the earnings front. They obviously were gearing towards the S&P ad, but also there were some other milestones where some executives got really paid. And so I'm not telling you that this company is not doing a good job executing. It sounds like they did a great job executing in what should have been a lights out quarter as far as demand, but it didn't happen that way. So, you know, listen, Steve said you got to buy it. I think he's kind of talking like a trader here. He's saying I wouldn't sell it. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a very expensive story. Everyone was poo-pooing the auto thing, and now it's an auto company, but the forward story is going to be about autonomy and it's going to be about software. So to me, the story keeps changing. You know, at the end of the day, there is going to be some very sizable competition in the next year or two in the high end where these guys play. And I would even add the Model 3 as the high end at that price point without those credits. You know, when they're going down, it's probably a $40,000 car. That's not exactly a low end car.